I met a man by the name of Scott Helvenston, who was a U.S. Navy SEAL, and no ordinary SEAL if there ever was such a thing. He was a world champion, an athlete. He's the youngest man to ever make it through SEAL training at 17 years old. I would spend almost every day with Scott. Like a second father to me. He would refer to me as a child of his. He'd call me Junior. So the time was fast approaching for me to go and enter into SEAL training. I got a phone call from Scott, and he told me, you know, Junior, I got to go and do this thing right now. He was referring to going to Iraq. He said, you know, by the time I get done with this, you'll be done with boot camp, and I want to let you know something. I know you're going to make it. I'm less than 3 weeks away. I wake up in the morning, going to do a morning of training. I turn on the television, and I see Scott on TV. And Scott being on TV is nothing foreign. He's been on TV before, but the image then changed to an image where Scott was laying in the street, and his arms were lifeless, twisted. I could see a portion of his head missing, and his clothes were smoldering with fire. I was in total disbelief. They're beating Scott's lifeless body with rods, and now they're wrapping a rope around Scott's legs and dragging him through the town of Fallujah. He was hung from the Euphrates River Bridge. I went from wanting to be like Scott just because I thought becoming a SEAL would be something really cool, to I wanted to become a SEAL now because I wanted to kill. I felt evil just enter me. So fast forward, I would enter into BUD/S Class 254. It's the most difficult military training there is in the world. 13 of those original faces out of that 173 would ultimately graduate. I remember graduation day was one of the happiest days of my life. My chest was puffed out, so proud to have that trident, the insignia that says I've become a SEAL. But at the same time, it was one of the lowest moments and most miserable moments of my life because I realized it hasn't delivered for me what I thought it would. Being as miserable as I was, but I'm a Navy SEAL now, I decided, you know what, there's nothing left. I'm just gonna drink, go out, get in fights, just be careless. I don't care. I would have blood all over me sometimes, not knowing whose blood it was. I'm not cut anywhere. I remember thinking of this as sort of like a badge of honor, like, you know, I just don't care anymore. This is part of being a SEAL. So in the midst of this chaos and living like a rock star, going out, drinking, fighting, blacking out, I'd found myself agreeing to go to an event where a man by the name of Greg Glory was going to be speaking. And as I was listening to Greg speak, he was talking about a commander, and that got my attention as a Navy SEAL. And this commander by the name of Naaman, he had leprosy. Greg began to relate this leprosy to sin. And suddenly I went from this total numbness to total sensitivity and conviction. I was feeling horrible for the things that I was doing, the things I didn't care about before. And right there that night, I repented of my sin and put my faith and trust in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. The night that I got saved, I realized why becoming a SEAL didn't deliver the ultimate for me, because just as Scott Helvenston was killed and he was hung from the Euphrates River Bridge for the sake of freedom, even greater than that, Jesus Christ was killed and he was hung from the cross of Calvary so that we could have freedom from sin. Greater love is known than this, and a man that gives his life for his friends. That's what Jesus Christ did for me and for everyone in the world.